probably not old enough yet. Can't tell her anything. Some people you can't tell anything when they get to be 50. Whatever. She'll get through it. She's got to get her out for some sports of some kind.
Yeah, she's not gonna do nothing for a while.
This is a granddaughter?
My granddaughter.
Oh, so he is.
Okay, well, yeah, Chrissy's daughter.
Oh, good.
Yeah, she broke it on a trampoline.
Yeah. This Norway deal, I didn't know it again.
No, I got the letter, I didn't know if you had to notify them maybe. She just asked me to send that to you.
Did you see that when he's talking about Norway?
No.
Okay.
What are we gonna do here?
Not a lot you can do.
Are they gonna use that tower? No.
Yeah.
Oh, they are.
Yeah, you wanna read that? From last week. On the tower? Yep. Oh, yeah?
We got okay.
Good, yep, I was happy.
Yeah.
Tell you all the history of Norway. I kind of figured it was.
I said, shocker.
It even tells where Benton County's located.
He said it was the first time she was in there.
I don't know if we
She
moved
never
or what.
this is how sound it is. Yeah. Alright.
Yeah, Joe Tuttle's donated the ground for Norway.
Gives you the whole history. Founding fathers.
Then we don't have to move anything at least. I'll bet you it's bigger than 5 acres, isn't it, Norway?
Oh, yeah. Now it is. That was an 18, whatever, 69.
My chair's sitting down, I don't like it like
It was
that.
short.
Seems like I was on the floor.
My one, like, new desk chair I got at work, we had to fix it. I would sit there and all of a sudden it would just go. So they had to send a part. It would be like, well, I'm sinking.
That's funny.
Okay, guys, we'll get at it. Somebody maybe come in, Mark, and we'll look quick. Don't matter, we can wait for them.
This is checking in.
Okay, we can wait till they come. I'd probably do that. Well, yeah, but, you know. It's on the windows,
Yeah, there's one in the building too.
is it? Like there's a spot right there, see it?
Mhm.
And that, you know, it's one of them deals, them windows ain't been cleaned and I know quite a while.
Just set that over there.
Yeah.
All right, thanks.
Morning.
Morning.
We say the pledge of allegiance before we start our meeting.
Great.
All right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
On the minutes, I think I had March instead of May 3rd, so I guess that is done.
I missed that. But other than that.
Should have waited to see if you guys caught it first.
No,
Motion to approve the minutes.
now seconded. Oh, very good. Okay. All in favor of approving the minutes?
Aye.
Aye. How about let's do Blairstown? No, wait a minute. Do we have it? You do?
Well, I don't have their, insurance, but you can still prove it pending. Cause that's what the state has as pending, so,
Okay, and the sheriff signed off on it?
yes.
Okay.
Well, the sheriff's already signed it off.
They're gonna think you have some pull, Gary.
Larry called me. Yeah, no, last night. Okay. Sunday night at about 9:15. He's like, you got a hold of it. I was actually going to bed. I heard the phone ring, I went out and answered it. So moved.
And I'll second that motion.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Do you wanna put something in there, grant if they get the insurance,
Yeah,
Pending type of service.
pending the insurance,
yeah.
okay? Now, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We got time to do,
Number 7.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
so moved.
Just a renewal.
Never checked deposit when you guys. When is the sauerkraut day, did it say? It's usually.
Yeah. Yeah, but this one for Labor Day.
Or they're doing it differently.
Yeah.
So they used to always do it.
Yeah. Okay, approved. The bear tent is for sauerkraut day.
Gary. Tracy, I'll second Gary's motion on that.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. You're the one who got signed in here.
Yeah.
All right. Barb Greenlee.
I'd like to set a land use hearing for Nutrient Ag Solutions for June 14th at 9:15.
Make the motion that we set that public hearing, land use hearing, June 14th at 9:15 a.m.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. No. Yeah.
We don't do those very often.
Yeah, you gotta sign up.
Yeah.
Okay.
See it? Which I also got this invoice, you know what this is for? I don't even know if it's ours. I'm sure this is part of that would be. Is it a door?
They come up here and I think they worked on that.
That's what it is, maybe?
Yeah, I think.
If it has maintenance, I guess.
That's what I
I
would
just
do.
got it yesterday.
Okay. I would ask them, ask Rick.
So is that 86% of that amount, or that's the amount that, so there's gonna be more after that?
Well,
It's gonna be confusing.
I think they did, yeah. So
Because what was
should only be 14% left.
Because what was the original?
171,000.
So that would be the difference in between.
Yeah. Yeah. You're right.
And that's paid out of our capital project.
Yes. And then, like I said, I schooled them, it's gotta be done by June 30th, bills and everything, so it gets passed on.
And I think I can code that, part of it comes from mental health fund balance too.
You know, we're gonna get some money from the Access Center,
Yes.
from also,
So I need to code it with those different accounts.
there's three different ones that came inside the account.
I will pay out of that, we'll wait for that to be ready.
Yeah. But we'll wait till the full
Right.
invoice comes, and it'll show what we paid on this.
You all
You guys understand this, right?
Mm-hmm.
The partial payment.
Right.
For the job.
But they do have one in Bell Plain.
If you
Okay.
guys all initial that one out.
Okay. No.
So you need a motion to approve that?
Yes, I do.
All right.
Second.
Yeah, Bell Plain
All in
does have
favor?
one.
Aye.
Got this,
Aye. You just gonna mail it to me, right?
Yes. Go back and say this, so what, I know.
We got 5 minutes. Anybody got a quick report?
My report is no reports.
Really?
Yeah, mine kind of all gang up towards the end.
I got one tomorrow after trying. I really don't wanna go.
What's that one for?
Easy cause.
Where do you wanna go?
So there's other things I can be doing instead of sitting.
Well, you wouldn't be the first one, yes.
You're the attorney,
I'm
alternate.
the alternate?
Yes.
Okay, I'm not gonna be in town.
Okay.
See how well that worked?
Then how is Gary?
I had a area agency on aging.
Yeah.
They got a rule that you gotta have so long a meeting, and you gotta be there and all this crap, and they didn't do nothing. I took time out of my planning day to attend that. I'd be more than happy if somebody else did that. Very disappointing. We've done more in this meeting than we did the last two already.
And I think we all have, you know, meetings we attend that are like that.
I can do it in December, January, February, but May. I shouldn't be so hard on them, I guess, they're doing good work. better meeting, so I'm gonna go away. Should have probably said that. Whatever.
I found a number for her. I didn't have a name, I just had it out of that brochure we have for references.
Yeah, you might say it. Thank you. One of the things I'm hoping to discuss this morning with the sheriff and Scott Hansen, I had a Zoom meeting Thursday about the tower systems. They're on. I was the only one from the county that attended my Zoom. But they want to rename this tower east of town here, do something. They want to give it a name. Why? Well, right now they call it East Greenfield.
Okay.
So they want to name, you know, we got the Norway Tower, Belle Plaine Tower, Rogers out here, Van Horn Tower. Now they want to name that site.
So you asking for a name?
Well,
It's a Cedar River Tower.
they even thought Benton City was one of the names they threw out. Shelbana.
Nobody will know what that is.
So I gotta get with the sheriff and Scott hopefully today. They want to get it named by the end, get a name on it officially. I was kind of leaning on maybe County Barnes and we could lower the price down so we name it after her. Just what I thought. Just- Okay, Mark.
I've given you guys a copy of a change in land use application that we received from Manor Farms. This is John McGrath, who is general manager of Manor Farms. Our board of supervisors, chairman is Tracy Seaman, Jerry Beershank, Rick Primer, and our county auditors, Haley Ripple. Manor Farms would like to change the use of 2 to 3 acres of land to create a commercial fertilizer storage facility.
Hey, Mark, it may end up being something near 5. The engineers had to change the dirt work, and just because of the profile of some slopes, it may end up being.
The containment area? Okay. So then I guess we'll think more in terms of 3 to 5?
Yeah.
Okay. The site that we're looking at here is south of Shellsburg. It's in section 26 of Canton Township. It's on the west side of 32nd Avenue, about 1,000 feet south of 66th Street. The business summary you have included with your packet there basically, as described by John, states that since 2008, Amana Farms has been the contractor for IFF, which is formerly DuPont in Cedar Rapids, to haul away and land apply the effluent stream from their enzyme manufacturing process. The liquid stream has been officially classified by the state as a fertilizer, and it is applied to ag lands. Since it is a fertilizer, it must be stored in an engineered, permitted storage container site. It is essentially a recycling business. The proposed tank would hold 1.5 million gallons of fertilizer and would look similar to the ones that Amana Farms currently have at Amana. And there was a photo attached with the business summary so you can see what that would look like. The proposed site plan has room for a second tank to be added in the future if indeed the need arises. And the secondary product containment as is proposed, and that's a requirement of the state of Iowa. In respect to the technical review.
I'll verify
This particular site has not been, or excuse me, has been in production. It's part of the land owned by Chris Bowersox. As far as the soils that are in this 40-acre tract there in the northwest of the northwest quarter, there is a complex of soils there, and they range from sands to basically a silt loam. The site that they've selected is basically the sands, and due to that fact, the CSR for the site is a weighted average of 35. There's an existing driveway that's located on the south side of the existing acreage. It does have appropriate site distance. Randy's reviewed it. The acreage itself actually shares the access that comes in off of the county road, and then it goes on to that private property. And this has served as farm field entrance here for some time. The plan is to add a second driveway on the north side of the acreage. Randy also reviewed that, and I know he's communicated with John that basically they can do that. Obviously, it has to have working right-of-way permit and meet all of the county's criteria to establish that new driveway. There's not going to be a well or septic system on this property because there's not going to be any need for it. There's not going to be people just actually staying here in a building. The new tanks that they propose to build, again, according to state regulations, must be 150 feet away from a private well. There is a private well on that acreage that sits in front of this particular parcel, and that site distance, or excuse me, that separation distance can be met. As far as surrounding land uses, as I've already indicated, there's an acreage just directly in front of this site that they'd like to have this land use change for. John has indicated to me, and we've mentioned this a couple of times back and forth, they've made repeated attempts to make contact with the occupants of this residence. And we obviously sent them notification of this public hearing today. They nor our office has heard anything from these folks about this proposal, one way or the other. So all of those attempts basically were to no avail as far as we can figure out. Other uses in the particular area, obviously there's cropland to the west, to the north, to the east, to the south. Timber Ridge Mobile Home Park is directly south of this to the southeast on the east side of the road. There is some distance between the two parcels, however. This site is off of a hard surface road, which in my opinion would be a benefit due to the fact that they are talking about truck traffic. John has described it for you in the business summary as far as the numbers of trucks per day and for basically how long the duration of that is. He's indicated that it's approximately a month in time there. We notified 5 adjacent property owners, and obviously, as I stated, we did notify the folks that have the acreage just in front of this to the east. We notified the official newspapers of Benton County, as we're legally required to do, and we received no responses from anyone prior to today's hearing. As they've stated in their their summary, their business summary, the proposed uses appear to be a benefit to area ag producers. As far as what we can see here, we're not taking any good farmland out of production. Obviously, it has been in production, but it's not necessarily production in respect to our definition, which is 70 CSR and above. It's well below that. And again, I was a little bit surprised, but we did not hear anything from the adjoining acreage owner. So that's really all the organized remarks that I have. I know you guys may have some questions. John, is there anything that, other than you're going to increase the parcel size a little bit here, is there anything in addition to that?
I don't think so. I think you covered it.
I know that area pretty well. There's a big hill right behind that house. Are you planning on cutting that down?
Yeah, it would be basically sitting on top of that hill, and then we would have to cut it down enough to provide, we have to build a secondary containment for the tank. So there would be that's where the engineer had to come up with a bit more ground just to balance the cut fills so that the containment would be, I think, something like basically 50% below existing grade and 50% above the existing grade. So the answer is yes, it would be cut down some, but not a lot. Mostly level, I guess.
So then after the product is in the tank, according to the literature that I read, they're going to drag a hose and inject it into the ground and like in the spring or the fall or?
It'll either be drag line applied if the fields are very, very close. Otherwise, we may have to put it back out on trucks again to empty it if we're going, a mile or 2 or 3 away. But we'll try most of the time to do it with the drag line applicator just because it's much quicker.
Is that what you do down the mountain with it?
Usually, yeah.
Is this stuff very caustic,
Not caustic as far as pH is fairly neutral. It does have odor to it. I can't skirt that issue. It's primarily an issue when we're emptying the tank. You have to agitate it because it does settle a little bit. So when you're agitating and emptying, there will be odor for 3 to 5 days probably.
Right by the trailer house?
What kind of odor is it, John? Can you describe it at all?
Well, the product that they're using is this enzyme food source, I guess, is a lot of soybean meal. So if you've ever been around decomposing soybeans, that's pretty close to what it is.
Mark, you said that it's a sandy subsoil, and if in fact it is sandy and you have a leak, it's going to go down, right?
It's more sandy in the upper part of the strata, Gary. There would be limiting layer that's going to be down below. I'll just throw this out, probably in the 4.5 to 5 foot depth. You'll find there's a restricted layer. Most of the soils in our county are that way. So it's not going to go vertically very far, but obviously when it hits that restricted layer, it can pan out and move horizontally. But it's not a situation there where it's, 20, 25 foot of pure sand, that kind of depth, no.
Part of the state of Iowa's requirements for building a secondary containment is it must meet percolation standards, and so the engineer has to basically find soils on site, or we may have to bring in some clay material to line that containment with. If there's nothing close by, that will make it pass percolation tests.
So there's relatively very low chance of groundwater pollution.
Based on what I know of the area and what he's explaining there, that would be very minimal.
The thing of it is we would most typically fill this tank, say, in January, and then apply in late March, early April, possibly in May if it was spring like we've had this year. Most of the tank sits empty most of the time. In some years it may get filled again in like August and reapplied in say October, but that's the thing that I like is it's not a risk because much of the time it's sitting empty.
So how do they handle the rest of the year? If they're getting, 3 to 5 semi-loads a week?
Oh, it's more than that. It's the plant will produce somewhere around 2 million gallons a month. So this tank is essentially a month, and not even quite a month's worth of production. So we've got 3 tanks down at Amana, and this 4th tank is basically about getting through the winter during the non-suitable application time. The rest of the year, we're going either directly to ag ground or pasture. We typically a lot of pasture ground, things like that. The reason I said that it might get filled in the summertime is if we have one of those summers where it just rains every other day, and we can't go to pasture, then it may get filled in the summertime as well. We don't want to touch the product twice. It's more expensive to do that, so we would rather not put it in storage.
What kind of experience have you had where you're at and managed with this odor situation? Are you close to inhabited residences there where you're at?
The closest tank, we have one at Homestead, those folks are probably 500 or 600 feet south of it, and they've not really ever complained to me. I mean, I can't sugarcoat it. When we're emptying the tanks, there's a lot of odor for 3 or 4 or 5 days. Generally, when the product is just in storage, it's not a problem.
Yeah.
Just during that application.
Right. Same as emptying in the middle of that.
Right, same thing.
The tank's got a lid on it.
Got an aluminum dome, yeah.
How do you agitate it in there then?
Assuming we'll do the same agitation style as the tanks that we have, we actually have, there's, I believe, 4 ports where we hook hoses up around it. And then inside it, there's kind of a gooseneck on there that gets the tank just kind of spinning a little bit. It doesn't have to be real rigorous. It doesn't settle like concrete. It just settles a little bit, so you just kind of have to get it moving again.
Wouldn't you be better off going over to Chris's West Farm and putting it over there?
There's Hog House over there, right?
No, there's the corn crib.
Well, after my initial talk with Mark, which was over a year ago, I think, you told me about paved road and then the CSR thing. I think this was about the only place we could find that met the paved road and the CSR requirements.
Yeah, so the other would be on gravel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be 2.5 miles west of where you.
Where's hog confinement is, that's off the gravel there too.
Mhm.
Yeah.
A lot of truck traffic there.
Yeah. Only thing I'm really concerned on is the smell in the trailer. That's the only thing that.
You're gonna have I'm guessing this is a tenant, just right
Right
adjacent
next
to
door,
it.
yeah.
And you're gonna have, when they're emptying it, it says, basically round the clock operations for 3 to 5 days. Yeah, that's 24 hours a day. You're gonna have trucks in and out going around this tenant. Are you that close to anyone else?
And
Yeah,
no, not that close.
I mean, that is, wow.
Big part of the reason we tried to contact those folks is we honestly we either wanted to buy that location and use that as the location itself, or potentially buy it, or just at least wanted to have a conversation with them and say, hey, we want to be a good neighbor, we're looking to do this. We want to talk to you folks, but we can't find any of them, or
So you don't
Hey,
know
you
if
live
it's
there.
do they? One of us knocked on the door once even.
You don't know if it's a tenant or a landlord, or, excuse me, or a property owner.
At that house.
Yes.
From what I understand, it's the Welch family, and we thought the Welch parents still lived there. From what we understand, the 2 boys actually own the property and have had for maybe 10 or 15 years. But I believe the parents, or one of the parents, still live there, or at least that's their address of residence, so.
Our notice went to, the Welches, Nathan and John. And it was our understanding that that's the occupants of that home. I don't know that 100% said or tell you, but that was the way I understood
The
it.
occupants being Nathan and John, or the occupants being their
One
parents?
one or the other, or the parents, but the ownership, I was just looking, I had the transfer documents here, I thought. But anyway, that notice went directly to the owners of that property, and their address is that address.
And I didn't get it back, so.
Yeah, it never came back. Because we were a little bit surprised about that ourselves, as I mentioned.
I'm a little confused. If you got a lid on the tank, I don't understand why there would be any smell
Well, you have to keep that tank vented so that it doesn't, have a hot day or cold day where there's temperature or whatever, so that there is odor exchange through that vent system that does happen.
Does this stuff freeze them in the winter time?
The product will freeze, it turns more like a slush or a snow cone, it doesn't get like hard frozen, I guess. And typically, we'll be applying a lot of years until even late December, and so it's maybe not typical for it to go in at the very beginning of winter and then just be sitting with nothing happening for the entire winter. We might be adding to it fresh, warmer products, so we've not really had an instance where it had an opportunity to freeze solid, and I don't think that it would.
What's the life expectancy of the tank?
Well, yeah, it's a slurry store type of glass fused tank. They call it a 40 to 50 year tank. The ones that we've had installed since 2016, they look essentially brand new. That's not all that long, but they should have a very, very long life.
I don't know what else you do to try to contact the adjacent property owner. Because,
we've got the necessary people right here.
well, I get that, and
I thought about trying to hire a private detective, but I didn't know if that was normal or prudent or what.
well, I understand, trying to skirt an issue of, getting a hold of the occupant as well as perhaps purchasing that property. I can understand that. I mean, it could save a whole lot of grief down the road. So, but, this is an ag-based business. And I believe the state of Iowa came down with a mandate here a year and a half ago or something like that, where you don't have a choice when it's ag-based.
Well, I think we really do in respect to our land use ordinance, because, in all due respect to Amana Farms, this isn't an activity that's happening on that farm, and this is classified as a commercial storage use. And so from that standpoint, I think it's legitimate that you do have the authority to review it and have approval authority over it. It's not that this is just a farm building, because it's not happening in respect to this farm. And so, from that standpoint, I think it's different. And there's a lot of debate about that law still that came out of exactly how it applies to county. I've not been comfortable with it since it came out, but I feel that it's not a farm building by definition, and so, it is under your authority to review it and approve it if you want, or disapprove it if you want.
That tank, when it's full, will hold enough fertilizer for about 375 acres, so obviously there's more fertilizer on site in that tank than what there is acreage specifically that farm, so it wouldn't be just for that field or that farm or anything like that.
Well, obviously the time to deal with this is now, not after the tank is up and everything is in place. You got the tank up, the tank's full, and you haul the stuff out, all of a sudden you get a bunch of complaints. That's really too late.
It is. Well, I think that trailer court is probably further away than
the 500 or 600 feet that you're currently in the Amandas, correct?
Yes.
I mean, so it's further away than what they have at their current location. And so, you know, I think that's a good thing, obviously, but it's,
It wouldn't be any different on building.
I get that. I get that. It said hog building's what, 1,400 setback? Something like that. What is that setback?
1,800, yeah, 1,875 feet, I believe, is our.
1875?
Yeah, with the hog facility.
So I wonder what that is down to the trailer court. Less than a quarter mile.
Let me ask this, maybe I'm not allowed to ask questions
Yeah,
like
yeah,
this.
of course you are. Yes, you can.
If you guys weren't comfortable with that site specifically, would you be willing to offer a variance on the hard surface road thing if we could find another spot on some of that? Well, I guess on the CSR rule as well. Is that another whole can of worms?
It wouldn't require a variance on the board's part to hard surface road. Basically, it's more of a matter of this. You know, if indeed they're looking at this type of use, is it something that they could foresee that's gonna, you know, is that use gonna tear up the road? It's not necessarily a requirement. On the other hand, you know, it wouldn't require a variance. The harder part is the CSR standards to comply with. If indeed you get into a situation where you've got 85 CSR now because of that site, then that's a no-brainer. The board's not to approve that with the way that our ordinance and comprehensive plan is written. They're to preserve productive farmland for ag production. But wouldn't require a variance for the road requirement.
What's the semi hold, 8,000 gallons?
6,200, 6,500.
Well, stuff's gotta be fairly heavy.
Yeah, there's 9.5 pounds per gallon.
100 loads would be. Well, when they empty it, it's 10 to 20 trucks per day.
It'd be more than that.
No, just to fill it. Typically, filled in a 1 month period, filled, is 10 to 20 per day.
There's about 240 semi-loads in that tank.
240? Yeah, I'll come up with, I'll take yours, there's worth it. Wow. I was just going off of what this says. The tank would typically be filled in 1 month with traffic typically amounting to 10 to 20 trucks per day.
So when you empty this, you gotta fill the trucks by the tank. And then are the trucks gonna go across the highway? Or are you gonna put it on south and east of the tank?
Well, if it's not being drag line applied directly from the tank to the field that's really close by, then it's gonna put on a truck and go back out on the highway and go down the road somewhere.
I know people in town are very sensitive to the smell. But we got that dairy right south of Blairstown there. We hardly ever, it's not a big deal. I mean, whenever they start pumping the pit in the spring and the pit rolls over, if the wind's from the south, you're gonna smell it in Blairstown. But it's like a day or two, that's it. I mean, So it takes 4 days to empty the tank. You're just gonna have to get over it.
Or the reason why we try to do it 24/7 essentially is just, start it and finish it and be done, and don't impact people's lives for 2 weeks.
Get it over with.
Yeah.
Just get it done and get it over with.
So your answer to him, Mark, was that even if they found a location that wasn't as populated, so to speak, if it's over the CSR limitations of 70, there's no if, ands, or buts, it is not gonna go through. Is that correct?
I would answer that by saying that you'd be going against your ordinance if you approved it, yes. So. Now, that doesn't mean that I make the decision, you do. So.
Correct. Yeah, we
My-
can give that.
My advice would be is that you do not do that, because for all of these years,
Setting a precedent.
that's exactly.
Uh-huh.
You guys are spoiled with this good dirt up here. I look all over the place for stuff below 70, and you just don't have much of that.
We're gonna run out. Gary says deal with the smell.
I could live there with.
I'm uncomfortable that you haven't, I know it's hard for you to talk to that guy in the acreage. That's one of the things. And also the trailer court. I guess a guy can, like they said, that in a couple days, it'll dispense the smell. Murphy's Law, the one will be out northwest when you guys want to apply that. And then I'm not for sure how many people actually live in that trailer court, but it's over 100, 150. I don't remember. Maybe Ron, you can maybe tell.
It's trailer court?
Shelter trailer court,
Yeah, you're probably right there.
you know, and I don't have 150 phone calls. You know what I mean?
I understand.
But I guess I'm looking at the guy with the acreage that's only 150 feet away from this tank. And like I said, I know the area real well. That hill is higher than the house, behind that house where you want to build it.
Right.
And then the hill wraps around on the north side of the acreage that comes around, and then of course it drops back down again. So that's my opinion. I can't speak for these guys. I'm just getting that out there right now, Matt. I'm the one that brought up whether it's a tenant or a property owner, you know, the question. It's uncomfortable that they not responded. Kind of like the gal that was up here a few weeks ago. Afterwards, yeah. And, you know, even though she got the letter, she didn't pay attention to it. Yeah. You know, yeah.
How far is this trailer court actually from the site?
Not a quarter mile. Yeah, Tracy said it's probably less than a quarter mile.
Yeah, but I don't see any trailers on this picture.
Well, they're there. You don't see the creek even, do you? Gary, are you looking at this picture? Yeah. Look at that picture. You're gonna see the trailer court right there.
Oh, okay. So it is about a quarter, oh, no, it's not. Quarter mile would be up where the
Yeah.
road is. That's north. Right.
So it's another 1,300 and some other.
This is what it says, Gary. This goes,
Yeah, another 1,320.
this is the Chris Power South acreage that they're talking about. They're gonna put it aside. This is the trailer court. This is the bridge down here. It comes out of,
This is This is east of,
No, it's south, just like the picture is right now. That's the trailer court, this is the lagoons over here,
oh,
for the trailer court.
So you're 1,320 feet from this line to this line, and then most of the trailers are farther beyond this
Yeah.
point here. Beyond this, south of that. So, you know, if there's a northwest wind like Tracy alluded to, obviously it's gonna go this way. And that's what we get a lot on the year, so prevailing wise, it's southwest, so.
yeah.
But that's 1,320 feet at least down to that point.
Yeah, it's, truthfully speaking, this probably isn't gonna be much different for a smell than the lagoon. You know, you ever go through Garrison, their lagoon can get pretty ripe. And so I realize there's probably more residents in Garrison than there is at this particular trailer court,
We have no water laws now.
you know.
We do not.
My only reservation is that one, you know, acreage, that is, otherwise I'd say flying colors. I mean, done its due diligence and such. It's just that one resident. I don't know what the heck else to do about it.
Have you tried recently, John, yourself to reach them, just in recent made application?
Probably not, no, I certainly haven't since the application.
I was just wondering if maybe it'd be prudent to consider, you know, make a motion to table it and see if indeed contact could be made. I mean, at least you might feel a little bit, you know, I know they've tried, I believe in that he's tried, but maybe like one last ditch effort, or possibly if we did try to intervene, you know.
Or even, I don't know if it's type of thing you do, have the sheriff's office serve papers.
So we can try personal service, try morning, try evening, and try late night. Just go through those 3 times, and if nobody answers the door, then we're.
The personal service always works for us, I mean, we use it, you know, it always works for us. If indeed you'd feel more comfortable, I mean, I'd be willing to send them something just on behalf of you, you know, that we tried. Again, last ditch effort.
That's my one and only hang-up, to be honest. I don't know. Gentlemen, what do you think?
As of right now, I would vote no, so. If you don't want me to vote no, I suggest we'll table it and do some more investigation. I know the neighbor to the south real well. I can call him, talk to him, and see, you know, does he know about his neighbor that's on the acreage? You know?
Yeah, maybe he knows the time that we could try
Yeah,
to get there and
right.
talk to somebody.
Right. Rory's retired, you leave home all the time.
Yeah.
We can give our notice to Ron, and they can personally serve it, and
Yeah.
that would be more comfortable knowing that they actually got it.
That they understand what's going on.
Yeah.
And if you give them the, you know, this packet, you know,
Okay, so there is a cost involved normally to have the sheriff's office serve.
That is correct.
Okay, so what is that cost normally?
I'm gonna say they collect up from about $70.
I was thinking, you know, $60-70 is what I was thinking. Been there, done that, had it done. So, but, you know, is that an expense that your company would be willing to?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, we wanna make sure everybody knows what we're doing ahead of time. I don't want people coming out
Yeah.
later on.
So if we table it, what are we thinking for a time frame? 2 weeks?
well, let's go at least 2 weeks.
That gives some time
Yeah.
to get all the paperwork together.
I farm and I take too much time out of my doing this job.
You know,
Okay. 2 weeks is fine by me.
Do you have any other sites spotted?
Well, I have a spot back down on Amana ground again. I mean, the issue there is we have enough fertilizer down there. I don't wanna haul it down there and then haul it back out again. We were looking to, and we deal with Chris quite a bit, and so he's familiar with the product, he likes it, and he has a fair amount of ground right there, was why we chose this spot. We have other options that are just not as good.
The only other place that I can think of maybe would be in southern Benton County someplace. That's the only place that the ground is lower CSR.
Oh, you've got around Urbana, you know, there's lower CSR there. Across the river here, there's lower CSR. You know, there's ground around, but, you know.
It'd be awesome if you could buy that acreage though.
That would be the ideal.
Yeah,
sure would,
yeah. It's pretty well level already, you know.
Then you can move your tanks.
There used to be a nice corn crib on the south side by that driveway, you know, they tore down.
Yeah.
Or the grain bin there, above our grain bin.
Yeah, that would have been my ideal. We were really hoping to contact them, and since we tried to contact them, we assumed nobody was living there any longer and thought maybe they would just be interested in selling it.
Yeah, there again, I go by, I don't watch it like I used to, but I mean, there used to be all kinds of cars there too. So
Still is.
It still is.
I mean, I guess there's 20
Still,
cars.
Yeah, so you can't tell if somebody's living there or if it's,
A little hard to tell if one of them's current or in the rotation or what there.
Yep. I think I got a phone number.
You think you do?
Okay.
For one of the Welches? Or- We had a voicemail, or Kay, I think might be their mother. I think we had a phone number for her and we tried and got voicemail and just left messages and got nothing, so.
okay. I'll take a motion to table this,
I'll give you that motion, we'll table it till May 31st.
okay?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So am I gonna write the letter? John, you guys gonna write the letter? How do you wanna handle it?
Or do you just want the property notice given to Ron and take it there?
So that we know that they
They
got,
actually got it.
Well, that's normally what you do is you would, and that's what you have done, you sent
we
the
did,
letter out.
we did, and we did not get it back, so
No,
our
I
assumption
know they
always,
got it.
because if there's no one there, we always get them back.
And the bottom line is, you know, that's pretty well, I mean, that's what you normally do, I'd say,
Was it certified mail or just?
Yeah, just regular mail.
all you do, okay, not certified.
They didn't pick it up. Certified. They pick it up if the sheriff takes it.
That's why we don't do
We
certified
don't waste the
mail.
money on that.
Well, I would think that'd be sufficient to notice
I know who
what's
they
going
are.
on.
You do?
You wanna put 9:15 on the 31st?
I know who they are. I've done some abandoned vehicle stuff for them the last couple of months.
Is there a vicious dog there? Do you remember
They always
that?
come to me.
Okay.
Must be very little dog biscuits around with you.
Sometimes.
So in your letter is, I mean, it's just your, return information, you know, contact your office, that deal. I just think that's sufficient.
If they have questions or concerns, or they could come and appear personally before you, is what it always says.
Does your land use state that it's a commercial fertilizer storage?
I'll get one out here. If I can.
Or are you thinking we should
Now
have
let's
some
stir it up.
better explanation of what commercial fertilizer storage is?
Well, what I would say is that
Here's what it says, Rick.
You've talked to
The
them?
purpose of the request is to change the status of the approximate 3 acres to a non-agricultural use specifically for commercial fertilizer storage. And the applicant is. And so this is, you know, it's all described here
Just
basically. So
Jonathan
that's,
and
Yeah.
Nathan.
Yeah,
or
commercial
Yeah.
fertilizer storage that could be dry as well.
Yeah, a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, we saw that when we started to review this. Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Good guy.
the city folks don't think that far.
Well, I can draft a statement that says specifically what,
What are you thinking, Tracy? You're mulling over stuff there. Do you want a picture of this then?
Well, yeah, I mean, everything that you got here is good. I like it. But I would like to have, if you finally actually talk to somebody, explain it to them, just like you got right here in the blueprints of their acreage, what they want in the blueprints in the draft, and then what the tank actually looks like, and,
we can do a packet, just like what you
Yeah,
got,
yeah.
and serve it.
We can serve it then.
Yeah, and then you understand,
What it is, and it
Yeah.
tells you what
this
the
is your
truck
chance
traffic
to
is,
object,
et cetera.
and if we sent you notices and you haven't replied, but now, this is your last chance.
We'll take
If
care
you
of
ain't
it.
got no problem with it, okay, so be it.
We'll take care of it.
You guys know of anybody else on hard surface roads that wants to use fertilizer? Maybe let me know.
Gary, huh?
I'm not dead set on that location, I'm just trying to follow all the Benton County rules, so. All right, done with me?
Yes, we are.
All right, thank you guys.
Thank you.
One last thing, Mark was just stating that it didn't necessarily have to be on a hard surface road.
No, it does
It
not.
does not
so,
have to be, but knowing what
It
What they're
would be
doing,
best if it was.
yes.
my recommendation always is in respect to the
Mhm.
taxpayers of this county, I don't wanna send something out there that's gonna end up being a drain on the taxpayer.
Right.
So I mentioned it, but if I led you to believe it was a requirement, I'm sorry, because it's not a requirement, but it's something I would report to you for your consideration.
Yeah.
And you could sit there and say, oh, we don't wanna do that.
So we already know that due to the wood chips, the hard surface road didn't matter much. It kind of broke the road up anyway.
Yeah.
So,
Part of the problem is we're assuming.
That was a quote
that
unquote
you're
hard
gonna haul
surface.
this out with the trucks. And if in fact, well, like the dairy south of Blairstown, they've hosed manure clear up to a mile south of Highway 30. There's people that got hoses that will move that stuff quite a ways. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't be thinking about it. I mean, if you put a hose in and there's commercial pumpers that pump this stuff or manure, and if they're gonna move it for 4 miles without any smell or, well, there would be a little smell where you agitate and it comes out of the tank, but,
Well, it's best to assume the worst case scenario.
yeah.
yeah.
I'm not trying to talk you out of it, but once we're all neighbors, I will stay good neighbors.
Yeah.
So,
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
I'm gonna hang on to this, Mark. I'm gonna hang on to your packet. I'm gonna keep the packet.
Yeah, I'll just,
Yeah.
we'll meet them again.
Yep.
All right, thanks.
Thank
guys.
you.
Thanks, guys.
thank you.
Do that change order quick, she's not coming. So she says this change order is the cost that the WHKS approved are for an intake guard, an additional stone included in the contract. The other charges were not approved because it was part of the original contract. So it's for the amount of $5,000 something.
That's the one I showed you, Rick.
So there still might be more change orders or no?
No, not on this one.
They should have done it first before they.
Should have got the change order signed and then did the
Yeah.
work.
That's what I told her, it was kind of done backwards, so.
Yes. This is where it's gonna get ugly.
So why would this be up to you to make the phone call, because you're not the head of the WMA?
Thank you.
And we're paying them for our admin fees.
Yeah. And I think that the head of the WMA, whomever that is,
It'd be gone now, then.
should be making the contact, because they're gonna have the explanation where you're gonna be the messenger without a lot of background, and you're gonna get shot.
Agreed. Yeah.
Figuratively.
Agreed.
Mhm. I mean, I think that change order is warranted, but I think they should discuss it first before we go,
Really?
I think they should discuss it before we go approving it.
Agreed.
Yeah,
Or should we table this
I
until?
think it should be.
Okay.
And I think that if you need a recommendation or some formal action, I think the head of the WMA should be contacting them regarding it. That's my opinion.
Okay.
Do you want that as a motion?
Yes, I do.
I'll do it. So you say that again.
What did you say, what did you say?
So you're gonna deny the change order? and-
No,
No,
table
No,
it.
just
we're
table
gonna
it.
table it
Until
until after
they contact.
the WMA
The grant administrator, right?
administrator gets in contact with these
Maybe.
individuals to discuss it.
It's not like it's
Yep.
$5.
No, it's not a $5 deal.
Second. What he said. Oh, would you read that back to me, Neil?
Really?
Get what you get, you don't throw it.
I like that.
Okay, all in favor of tabling this?
Aye. Here you go, Gary.
Let it know right now.
Okay.
We didn't give it a specific date because we need to give them some time to get hold of
Yeah.
it. Once it's taken care of,
And
then
then she can put on the agenda.
that's right.
Okay.
This worked pretty good. We tabled everything.
And you gotta go over all of it again.
I'm serious.
Okay. Sheriff,
Like to hire a full-time person in jail, Josiah, and I'm never gonna get this last name, Rosalsik.
Yeah, you're telling me, these are both gonna be the resolutions.
yeah. We'll do one at a time.
And the other would be,
This is as per your union contract, is it? Okay.
the other person would be a full-time deputy sheriff, and that is Eric Recker. He would be filling a vacancy. He is finishing his May term at Wartburg and will be available, first of June sometime.
So you don't have to go to the academy.
And you want this both separate?
Yes.
Or make a motion that we approve hiring Josiah
Yep.
P.
Yes.
for full-time corrections officer.
Second.
By resolution?
Remember, Rear aye. Seaman, aye. Question. Male or female?
That is a female.
I thought. Okay,
And then I'll make the motion that we approve hiring Eric Record as deputy sheriff.
Second.
by resolution.
Firmer, aye.
Rear aye.
Seaman, aye.
And we'll have, that leaves us with one more vacancy as deputy sheriff, and we'll have another person moving back here from Des Moines area, Polk County, and he worked for us, got married, his wife went to school down there, so they moved down there, and he went to work for Polk County, and now they're moving back, and
Thanks.
absolutely.
Applying for a deputy position.
He's applying to work in corrections again.
Correct.
I noticed that you're, working 30-21.
They're working on it. We just can't get there enough.
I saw you had somebody stop there last night. I'm glad that
They're working at it. I'm never gonna say we're gonna get that. We just don't have enough people to go over there.
yeah, it's not like it's right by the office.
No.
Well, I appreciate you doing whatever you're doing.
And this last Thursday.
Yeah,
Now, this, design review meeting we're gonna have, is that in person or is that all,
in person.
so are they coming here or are we going there?
They're coming here.
Okay. Better.
They're coming here. That's gonna be a couple hour deal.
Yeah.
So, I guess we got time. Judy evidently didn't get your email.
Well, they just, I think both Judy's are coming, so maybe it didn't.
Okay, whatever. I can discuss this with him now. I need to get with you and Scott. 'Cause one of the things discussed last week was they want to name the tower site. They want a name on it. They don't want it East Greenfield anymore.
Okay.
So some of the names that they threw out, was one of them was Benton City.
Okay.
Okay. Somebody also had called it Shelburne, Shelburne or Urbana, two names together. Whatever. But they want it, name it.
I will run it by Scott, but I think Benton City's pretty close.
That's what I thought. They actually giving me a hard time because they wanted to name it Seaman Tower, and I said, no, that ain't gonna happen.
Well, it wasn't the Tracy Seaman Memorial Tower.
Oh, there we go.
That,
No.
You gotta name it right if you're gonna name it at all. I would like to say that I think our, what is Mike? He's our Mike Day.
Mm-hmm. Administrator.
He's doing a fantastic job for us.
Yeah, I'm happy with it. Some of the questions that definitely I can't answer, you guys weren't there. The water tower, Urbana, and an antenna on that.
That's gonna be an Eric Hoover question with Raycom.
Okay. They wanna know if that antenna in that area is gonna be still needed.
I have to ask Eric that.
This is all Greek to me, you know what I
I'm
mean?
gonna assume no.
Okay. The other question is, Belle Plaine has city antenna for the public works on our tower down there.
Yep.
Or do they want to keep it yet?
We'll contact Mayor Fish and see if they wanna change to a new system at their cost, or if they wanna stay with their old system.
Okay.
The other deal was your tower on top of your building, you got a lot of antennas on it. And they don't know what it's for. I suggested we could sit back with a rifle and start shooting antennas off, and then what don't work, we figure out what it was
That
for.
one we need. Gotta replace it.
So that's another thing.
Okay. I think I have a schematic of that tower.
Okay, good. And the other thing is just Myron. I gotta get together with him. Does he want radios and everything? You know, that's gonna throw the cost up big time for all his equipment, the trucks, the maintainers. You know, I haven't talked to him. I mean, he kinda knows of this, but it's to the point that, you know, if he wants on the bandwagon while we're coming by, now's the time to do it. But
I like the idea personally of issuing everybody out there a handheld radio. That way if they're out of the machine and getting a pinch, they've got a radio right with them.
Okay, and then the 26th is when we're gonna have the in-person meeting.
They said allow at least a couple hours.
Yep.
I was hoping that wasn't gonna be a 2-hour Zoom meeting
No, we're gonna do it in person.
here.
Yep, at the sheriff's office, same place. All right, I guess I touched all the bases on this. What I might do is I'll make a copy of this, I wrote down my notes and give you a copy or whatever, you know what I mean, and then you can
I'll
pass
see if
it.
I can get that.
Good. You can give one to Scott or make two right away, and it's my chicken scratching, so. Ladies, you're up.
I'm ready?
Yeah.
Wow. Walk in and then here we go.
We're gonna have to schedule another study.
How are you doing?
Good, how about you two?
Working away.
I'll start to see where she told me where this was at. You ever been here before?
Last year.
Yeah.
I just couldn't remember which street you came on, so then we had to Google it.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I apologize, I figured you knew her.
No, first time.
Okay.
I met her before.
Yeah, I'm the old Judy. She's the new.
It's a pair of Judy's.
One's with an I and one's with a Y.
That's right. Well, I'm gonna go ahead. I started out doing this last week, was the first one, and Judy helped out on the first one, and so I've just been doing them since then. So I'll go ahead and go through this, and then if you have any questions, or if Judy feels like there's something that she needs to add, she will. So what we're gonna look at here is your renewal, which is just an estimate. So if there are any changes that are made to the schedules or anything prior to May 31st, then that will be reflected when you're invoiced for the in June for the 7/1 renewal. So just keep in mind that that's an estimate. So first, if you want to look at the letter, you'll see that the premium credit this year is $41,156. And that is, premium credit is based on the self-insured products that you've been using since 1987, since the pool net claims or losses from those products. So it includes everything but the equipment breakdown. So, and we'll go ahead and start with this. And if you look at your property insurance premium, there's not been much of a change. That the premium that corresponds with property values. These are values. They're the same rates that the Heartland Pool's been using since early 2000. So this is what you're being charged for the property. The Heartland Pool is absorbing the increase in the property market. So there's been an increase in property premiums from the market, but the pool as it operates, the counties are able to use the rates from what would have been charged from the 2000s. So you are getting to the advantage of doing that, so. And then your property, again, we have the property insurance and the marine. If you look at and then just to clarify, so like the insurance rates, since they're the same since the early 2000s, that does insulate you against the swings in the market. So with the property coverage going up, and with the liability, with the premiums for that coverage, there's a surplus that the pool has, and that surplus has remained constant for many years now, and that absorbs your losses have been good, and it hasn't changed the surplus. It's stayed constant for the pool. So, and if you look at your equipment breakdown coverage, that's a pass through. That is a fully insured product that the members pay.
That I got a question
Okay.
Okay, what do you classify as equipment?
So this is like what you would have termed as like previously like boiler and machinery. That's kind of the coverage. Equipment breakdown is it's a more current term for what we would have for boiler and machinery. Things like what's the example that you gave as far as the refrigeration of the vaccines, so those types of things. If you can give them that example.
Yeah, and there is on the back, she's giving you a coverage summary of equipment breakdown.
And tells you what.
So it doesn't speak to motor grader goes down. We know that's equipment, but that's not the kind of equipment we're talking about. So,
Okay, so you're more like motors, air conditioner.
right, if there's a covered cause of loss. So wear and tear is not going to be covered.
Yeah.
Lightning hits something, in that case, most of the time that would be covered under the Heartland property. We had a situation where one of the counties has a dam and opens and shuts. We don't cover the power part of that, but they scheduled the mechanics of the dam. That claim just got covered because sounds like it was a water problem, not
Okay.
And then the next coverage that we look at is the errors and omissions. And that premium is based on employee counts. And this includes public officials, employment practices claims, and board decision claims. So that would be the errors and omissions, that coverage for that. The next one is township coverage. And this is liability coverage only for your clerks and trustees for your townships. So it doesn't cover like anything, property damage for the cemetery, anything like that. Then general liability, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, it's similar to the property in that the pool absorbs the increases in the renewal from the excess carrier. So the premium is based on the rate set by the pool. So that's where we're getting your premium for that. And then you have your automobile liability, again with the same as the general liability. The auto physical damage, the pool covers these losses completely. So there's no reinsurance associated with these claims. And the premium is based on the number of autos and the rate set by the pool. Crime, and then also law enforcement. I guess I said that. Law enforcement, that's based on the number. If you look down at your employees, that's based on the number of employees for your law enforcement. Now, part-time employees that are working 35 hours per month or over 35 hours, that counts as a half a body. And then those reserves that are working under 35 hours per month, that's a quarter of a body. So that's how, if you look down here at your law enforcement, for your number of employees, that's where you get the, 51 3/4. That's how that's calculated. And so you had a little increase in your law enforcement employees. So, and
Under your automobile physical damage,
yes.
you cover the sheriff's cars,
Yes. Yep, they're scheduled on the.
And that one that got gone,
Hit on the interstate.
yeah. You getting a new one?
It's back on the road driving on it.
It's fixed.
Very good.
The other people that hit it paid for it.
And insurance, eh?
Well, they're supposed to.
That's debatable.
Something right, huh?
That's debatable.
Okay. And our next one would be crime, and this is not for like, employee fidelity coverage. This is more for, like, if you have petty cash in your treasurer's office or something like that, and somebody would happen to come in and steal that, then that would be coverage for a theft like that. Then if we look at your work comp coverage, this is based on your mod factor and your payroll. And your work comp coverage in premium this year is up, but again, your payroll was up significantly. Your mod factor is 1.2, average for mod factors 1. So you are a little high.
We went up the last 2 years.
Yeah, you have, and we'll look at that further.
And we've also increased number of employees.
Right, and which shows that your payroll's up, so that's kind of where that comes from. And then we have the, let's see, where, moments, I do not have that, let's see. All right, and then special vehicle equipment, that is for vehicles that have, emergency vehicles that have radios, printers, computers, and it's for replacement costs of electronics. So for instance, in the sheriff's, if there's something would happen to that, that's what that coverage is. And it's based on the number of vehicles that you have. And then right now for cyber, we're still waiting on the final quote for cyber. So we're gonna have a Zoom meeting in, I'm gonna try to get it set up for next week with them. We have to finalize some additional with the property for access, and then we'll have the Zoom meetings. Hopefully, I'm gonna see if she will get that set up for us for next Thursday and go over. She's gotten some preliminary information in on the cyber, and she's getting some clarifications. But so we're gonna try to get that set up.
This is just an estimate on the
Yes,
cyber. Because
and so we just used the same allocation that was used in the past, and what that was is 1/2 was allocated the same for each county of the premium that you would be charged, and then based on the half on the number of employees that you have. So that's kind of, yeah. So this is something that you voted on at the board.
Right.
So that's not, that won't change. So those are the breakdowns there. Now, if you go to the second page, it kind of shows you with the premiums, then the allocation of the premium for each coverage. Yes.
This inland marine went up almost 20%.
And that's based on if you've added for on your schedules for your equipment and property, or equipment and automobiles. So if you've increased what you have on your schedules as far as you've added vehicles or equipment, then that's what that premium is based on. Additional is you have more vehicles than what you would have had last year.
we have the
And
new sheriff pickups, we've also got new maintainers,
yes.
dump trucks, et
Mail
cetera.
order.
Yeah.
Yeah, those things.
So
add
if
to it.
you look at your inland marine values down there at the bottom part under the exposure comparison, so you can see that went up almost $1 million for what you've added.
I'm sorry.
No, you're good. So then,
You don't know, you don't know. I mean, it's just one way to find out. That's why they're here.
and then see that makes me be able to answer questions and learn what questions might be asked of me. So it's all good. So, and then if you look at the second sheet, you have the premiums and the allocation of the premium, and then you have your premium credit taken out there, as it's allocated between the coverages. So then we have a net premium of $686,460. And then if we go to our, if you have any questions on that, we have the graph that shows your liability history, or your premium on your liability history. And so when we look at the liability, we take losses from there's 6 years, and we throw out the highest year and the lowest year, and then we average the other 4 years, and that's where we get the premium based on those 4 years. You cannot get an increase above 5%, and then again, you can't go below 5%. So it's capped in there what your premium would be, but again, based on your exposures and averaging those and throwing out the highest and lowest. So you're up just slightly from last year, but obviously down from when we track back to 17-18.
18-19 was the first year we went into the averaging because we were finding this out. We'd give you an estimate in January, and then when we would get the exposure information from the auditors, it would be different than we expected. So you're either going way up from we expected or lower. And so it was great when we were present this to the board and get them to agree to take your net expenditures and average them out, because we're trying to keep things as low as we can.
And then I've included the Gallagher Bassett building valuation from last year. And so Gallagher Bassett had initially been contracted probably 10 years ago or so to do the building valuations, and that's when they actually came out to all the counties and did them. And then since that time, they've been doing what they call desk reviews to value those properties, and that's based on they have computer programs that they input, data as far as location, where you are, and things, and to get what the replacement cost would be. So that's where we have these from. Now this year we've contracted with a new company, CBiz, and they are coming out to all of the counties, and they're valuing the buildings that are $50,000 and above. And we have seen that they have found additional buildings than what you have on the schedules, and they'll be providing, just varies by county, number of buildings that they found. But they are going out and doing these valuations. They are going to have a final report to us by the end of September, 1st of October, to be able to take a look at, make sure that you're valuing your buildings appropriately. And you want to make sure that you do get, on the schedule. If you look at what you've done here in the past, you are up to date, with your courthouse, what you scheduled, that was updated in 2020. Now again, given the replacement cost of things, when that new one comes out, you will want to take a look at that. Some of the other ones that maybe weren't updated, for a while, like you may want to look at those. But again, they've got, the next one you look at, you have it valued, significantly higher than they do. So, it's just all, you'll need to compare to when you get the information from CBiz. I would advise doing that. But if there's anything here you take a look at that might be a little bit lower than what they have for the replacement cost, it's certainly something to see if you feel like you need to make an adjustment. So.
For example, the Cedar Valley Ranch, is almost 2.8 is what they say the replacement was, and we've got it at 2.2. And this doesn't include the new one that's going to be coming out, so it's going to be higher.
You know what Ranger House, where's that one
I'm not sure which,
Wildcat.
is that Wildcat?
Mm-hmm. There's only one ranger house.
One thing to keep in mind, if you look at the care facility, if tornado came through there, totaled it out, would you replace the facility? And you know that you don't know that, so then you have to take a look at it and say, well, am I comfortable with the value we have on it, or do I want to have enough value on it so I know that I'm just going to get the actual cash value if I don't rebuild it? So those are the kind of questions you ask yourself. Same thing with the Ranger house. If that blows away, do you think you would replace it?
My question on that though is, the insurance company with you guys, you got replacement costs and then you got cash value. That's always two different things. If we don't replace it, then the cash value is way less, correct?
If you've got a building and you decide not to replace it, then the coverage document has a paragraph in there about paying cash value.
So then let's go to the east of it here, the senior systems of
Cedar Valley Ranch.
Cedar Valley Ranch.
Right.
What would the cash value of that be then? If we would rebuild it, just for curiosity.
If you would rebuild it,
Would not.
That's going to depend, an adjuster would have to figure that out, what the actual cash value was. And so I don't think anybody could tell you that, not knowing what the loss is going to be. I can give you an example. One of the counties ran their own care facility. They were the last of the 10 to run it themselves. And so a few years ago, they decided to close it and they moved the residents to other counties. And so what they did was they gradually took the value of the building down because they knew they wouldn't replace it, but you still want to have coverage on it so that you've got some for demolition coverage. So in case it does burn or it gets hit by a tornado, you still wanted to have some coverage so you weren't paying for the cleanup.
Okay.
So that's not something Heartland can answer
Okay.
on that, but it's just something to keep in mind. If you've got, I know I used Decatur County as an example. They had a building on the square that Gallagher Bassett valued at $750,000, and the supervisors had it at $150. And they said, if we could sell it for $750, we will sell it today. And they made the conscious decision that they were going to put less on it because they knew if something happened to the building, there was going to be a space on the Times Square where there wasn't going to be a building anymore. So it's just some of those, you just kind of have to make those decisions.
Okay. Just curious about that.
No, it's a very good question.
Yeah.
And it helps her to learn too.
I had a friend of mine had a house from the derecho, moved out the foundation, They suggested $100,000 to rebuild it. He said, I'll take the cash, and they paid him $35,000. I would have fixed it just in order, but that's me.
Yeah. But those questions are good because that's how Judy learned. I mean, she's learning so much right now,
Sure.
and I'm throwing so much at her
Yep.
that when you ask questions like that, I don't want to put her on the spot, but it kind of helps her understand how things work.
Okay.
So I've included your schedules for everything, for your property, your inland marine, and your automobile schedule. So those are all in there showing you, what you do have and what you have it valued at and the premium associated with that. And again, if anything changes before May 31st, those changes will be made, and then that would affect your premium. And next, one that we'll look at is the work comp. And as I indicated, this is based on your payroll. Your estimated payroll is up, and as you've noted, you had an increase in employees, which does account for that increase in the payroll. If you look at the sheet behind the workers' comp estimate, you do see the rates put out by the state of Iowa. And those are rates for each corresponding job classification code. So the rates that we are using to calculate the premium, those rates are given to us by the state of Iowa. So you have your estimated payroll for the different job classifications multiplied times the rate given to us by the state, and then that's where we get your estimated premium. If you look at the bottom of the chart, you'll see that your premium is, the initial estimate is the $327,453. Then we do multiply that times your mod factor, which is 1.2. Then you have a total standard premium of $392,943. Then we take into account discounts. So you have a premium discount, a pool discount, and a safety discount. So bottom line estimated premium then is $276,140. Flip through your schedules. You can put your, is he past his schedules?
It's an individual page, Gary.
All your staples. Everything is stapled together.
This was stapled.
Your next couple is gonna be stapled all together.
You only have 3 of them there that are stapled.
Yep.
Keep going, keep going, keep going, get rid of everything, 3, now stop, that's where we're at.
All right. So yeah, so as I was saying on this, you do have the different job classification codes, and then you have the rates given to us by the state of Iowa, and that's where we get your estimated premium. And then we take that amount, the $327,453, and that's multiplied by your mod factor of 1.2, and you get the total standard premium of $392,943. And then you have the discounts that we take out, a premium discount, a pool discount, and the safety discount. So that gives you your estimated premium for $276,140. And so that's what we have for that. The next couple sheets do just give you a brief overview of the mod factor and how that's calculated. We look at expected losses for the 3 years prior to our current fiscal year that we're in. So given your losses, you have had an increase, and so your mod factor is the 1.2, and then you can see from the mod snapshot page, which is this one, the mod snapshot, this shows what your current, the mod breakdown for your current anticipated losses. You see your current rate is 1.2, average would be 1, and then below that is the minimum and things. But you can look at your actual versus expected losses and see in 19, your actual losses were down a little from your expected. But then if you look at 1920, that's the driver right there. You can see your actual losses were significantly more than what your expected losses were. And then for the 2021, you're even on that. So if you have, some good years ahead of you, that will, help with the mod factor going down. And you've been fairly consistent. If you did have, again, that 2021 year is good. You're the 0.9, so you're below what the average is. But then last year it was the 1.3 and the 1.2. So that kind of just gives you an overview of what your mod history has been. Then the next 2 pages, we have a coverage summary, overall coverage summary document for the different coverages, the property liability, crime, work comp, cyber, and then equipment breakdown. And then there is a separate sheet for the equipment breakdown coverage. And then I think Rick has the authorization to bind sheet, so once you've reviewed that, whatever. And you're the only one that has that. There's just one of those, so. So,
Right here, right here. You got it.
is there any questions? Does anyone have any additional questions or anything?
Oh, you got this? No, he doesn't.
That's almost the same amount of credit 2 years ago.
Yeah. Any questions for me?
He's reading something.
He's reading
The
about his
Heartland risk, the equipment breakdown.
So what are you up to?
Helping her.
What are you gonna be doing?
Well, officially I retired December 31st of last year. And then the pool brought me back to consult to help her, which is good because it's just a lot for anybody to take on. I've been doing this 21 years, so my brain doesn't work well as far as if I try to transfer things too much at a time. And Judy's worked with the pool for almost 10 years with work comp. So the board was very familiar with her. She was very familiar with them, and she and I worked together closely for a long time. So, yeah, I think the pool did a great job finding somebody that can take it on, and there's just lots of stuff going on. So,
What are you gonna do in the future?
well, my husband's older than me. He's been retired for 4 years. So he was thinking this year we'd be out camping every weekend, and I'm like, no, I'm still working. So I don't know. I kind of look at that and say, what's my next adventure starting next year? So I'm not sure. We'll see. I'm not ready to watch Law and Order all day like some people I know. That's my brother, I think. So I don't know. I'm just kind of waiting to see what pans out for next year. I appreciate the board putting up with me for 21 years. It's been a great run. And
I think you've done a great job.
well, thank you. And I want to pass that on. She's got a passion for the pool just like I do. And I feel like you can't do this job if you don't have a passion for the pool and for the taxpayers that are within it. And she certainly does. So I think you guys are really fortunate that you got her. And I'll miss it a lot because my office is my home just like hers is. So it becomes a 24/7 kind of thing. But, time marches on and they needed somebody smarter and younger. So this is good.
I think we need a motion to go ahead and authorize your signature and to bind this, and I'll make that motion.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Bear in mind, next week we're having a Zoom, and this is over the cyber
and then
portion.
just the excess of what Genesis has a problem. We're gonna get just that extra layer on there, so hopefully she'll have that too. We're gonna do the same. I have a good copy of this. And send it to you.
Okay, perfect.
Any other, anything else?
Thank you, ladies. Greatly appreciate you coming around and explaining it.
You bet.
I gave them copies, but I couldn't explain what you can. So.
Yep, we're gonna go to the landfill now.
All
see it.
right.
So we're headed to them.
Oh, down the.
You guys are able to run down to landfill, Tracy, and meet with them now?
No.
Eric's good to work with. I
Yes,
really
he is.
appreciate working with him all the
Good
years.
administrator.
He's very good,
Yep.
very good.
Yep.
So,
It was good to see you. Thank you again. I don't know when I'll
Thank you,
see you
ladies.
next, but it's good to see you. Thanks. And
Nice meeting you.
Nice to meet you.
You bet.
Bye-bye.
We'll see you. Bye. Yep.
I think we're done.
Motion to adjourn.
And I'll second that.
Whatever.
Aye.
All right.
Aye.